turn, going to give a couple of minute debrief. Aren't you all facilitators ready for that? Yes, we are going to do that. And I'm going to start, and then I'm going to, at the end, come back and just give you a few thoughts that I picked up following the main part of the conference today. So we were discussing the best subject, I'm sure you all agree, was capital costs. It was brilliantly facilitated on each of the tables, thank you, David. So therefore, I understand it was really your motivational issue, and I'm sure some of the other facilitators will try to prove me wrong on that. But anyway, we basically were looking at the scenario of the way the costs have risen, and some of the ways we discussed and were suggested by the fellow delegates were increased competition of contractors, somehow commoditization of liquefaction, and therefore passing some of the risks to the upstream facilities. I think there was a message that came out really clear with a good example of the offshore industry, where oil costs, the cost of offshore oil, has actually exploded in a similar basis to LNG, and that's because they've been driven by bespoke project design. And with all due respect, in $100 oil, there's so much money sloshing around anyway, inefficiencies can exist. So perhaps $30, $25, $15 oil, if we get there, is actually going to drive greater efficiencies, and the lower costs will actually encourage lower capital costs. We did strongly discuss many of the tables the fact that technology lessons can be learned outside our industry, and the aviation industry was discussed by some people, as indeed the nuclear industry was discussed. And we were thinking also economically, designing the projects to last for longer could very much help, and also building projects in less remote areas could help as well. But there's one last message was, and we discussed this at length actually at the last table, was that making sure that you don't have health and safety issues or you don't have environmental issues is really important, and we do expect that means you don't build LNG plants, because health and safety and the environment are the most important things we talked about. Okay, so that's the end of my debrief. Optimization?
Standardization.
Oh, I mention standardization.
Really?
I did, didn't I?
Sorry.
This side of the room heard it. Wake up now, come on. No, I did, we talked about it. Okay, any other context? Right, okay. So now I'd like to pass over, who'd like to go next? Dario, where are you? Who's that? Come on, Dario. Can you come up and then you can pick up? So Dario was talking about what role will FLNG have in the next 5 to 10 years. Dario, over to you.
I have to say that we ended up talking about everything but, I guess, the role of FLNG in the coming 5 years. But no, actually we did at the first roundtable, and the key challenge that was identified is in fact the gas treatment that is very much dependent on a particular location, whereas the issues of liquefaction and storage and technology those were agreed to be relatively easy to establish. So we ended up concluding that it is likely to be a very niche technology. There is no major breakthrough to be expected in the coming years. Basically, the key drivers for adopting these technologies when there is a combination of high costs associated with the construction of onshore infrastructure, and in that case, of course, FLNG would be a more cost-effective solution, but unless it is the case, it is very unlikely that this is going to be mainstream technology used anytime soon. We have discussed the role of small-scale LNG in Europe, and particularly when it comes to the changing regulations and that have to do with the sulfur caps across the EU and the emissions control areas and the destiny of the Mediterranean, that will be the EU is part of the Mediterranean that is likely to become an emissions control area soon. Clearly, the current oil price environment is not helpful at all for the development of LNG as marine fuel. However, there are some really strong regulatory incentives pushing in this direction, and ultimately there is a need for proper regulatory incentives on the EU level, but also synergies between the sectors and policies and regulations not being developed by the EU in silos, but a more comprehensive approach to the challenges that are being faced by the EU shipping sector and the potential development of new infrastructure projects have to be viewed together. We have also touched upon the issue of the possible gas hubs in Southeast Europe and the vital need for stakeholders to work together, not to abuse that much this concept, and to really, if we are serious about establishing a gas hub in the Balkans, there's absolutely no way a single country can take up this type of status, and there's a clear need for greater cooperation in the region, greater awareness of the implications and actually simply the functioning of the gas target model and the vision, the EU vision of the way a European gas hub, whether it is virtual or physical, can operate. So I think these were the key issues that we discussed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reggie. Okay, who wants to go next? So Stefan, do you want to go next? Stefan Adriansi, you haven't met yet, he's the commercial manager of GET. Well, you have met him, he's been around the table.
Good afternoon, everybody. We started at that table, and it's clear that we are in Vienna, because we started basically by saying, okay, what are the solutions for the security of supply related to Central and Eastern Europe? And so there were, of course, three ideas: that it's a terminal in Croatia, or improve the work together with the Polish terminal. The second solution is, of course, the north-south corridors, and the third one is to improve on reverse flows. So that table gave as a kind of task, go around all the tables and come back with a solution for the security of supply by the end of the round table. So we will see whether we managed that. I think at this table what became clear is that launching the idea of let's just have a floating LNG terminal left and right, it's easy to say something like that, but it's much more difficult to put it in practice for different reasons. That's first of all the markets which are not well connected are typically smaller markets, so the various countries needs to work together. And that's very difficult, be it in the Baltic or in Western Europe, to have different countries working together on a solution is not easy. And also there are significant costs, and who will pay the bill in the end, because the advantage is on the molecule side, and somebody stays with the bill of the infrastructure side. So I think for me it was with floating LNG as a solution for let's say security of supply issues in Europe is not per se the miracle solution, if that's if I may phrase it like that. The third table came, let's say, with non-infrastructure solutions for the security of supply. There the idea was, okay, the best security of supply is to have improved markets in those countries. So typically these markets are relatively closed if you look in terms of liberalization of the market. So there the suggestion was have just a better market working, and because you will have different players in the market, automatically you will create more security of supply. So that was very useful. And also what came from that table is that let's say the transmission tariff methodologies in Europe are not well designed to cope with emergency situations. Because if you want a kind of guarantee backup, you have to subscribe for long periods. So you should find a system that tariffs are also working for emergency situations. So those are two nice ideas to be developed, which are, let's say, non-infrastructure related. The last but one table came more with technological solutions. And so they said, okay, instead of, let's say, small or mid-scale terminals in southeastern Europe, why not think about transporting LNG by rail cars, by ISO containers? There's a lot of, there was even an idea, why not build LNG pipelines? That's very exotic and very costly, we think. But so there we were more looking into small technological elements. And the last table came more with kind of trying to find a solution for, in the end, somebody has to pay the bill. And so we had a very nice discussion on socialization of the costs. That's also not the solution as such, because you just you need to find something there, but in the end somebody is paying for it. And I think there came the solution. If you want to finance it, why doesn't let's say the state issue kind of bonds related to that security of supply, and doesn't collect the money from the end users to pay for that security of supply? And there they made references to how in Africa mobile telephone systems are developed. So I would not say that at the end of the round we had a solution, but there was a problem, and the different tables looked for different solutions around that.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for that. Okay, next, Lewis, talk about, can LNG become a tradable commodity?
Hi. Well, we have been going through the different issues and about the LNG tradability a little bit. In summary, what we have learned today is that when there is a will, there is a way, and in this case, where there is a need, there is a way. So the conclusion from all of you, I think it will be that yes, LNG will become LNG tradable commodity, but what we don't know is when. No? It will happen. It seems that we have a lot of challenges to be solved yet. It seems that quality concerns is not an issue because it's quite easy to solve the problem of the quality. We have other issues about how to price LNG, which will be the smallest scale of tradability of the LNG. We have seen that there are some solutions, financial solutions, in order to just trade a small part of the LNG vessels, and also that we can find new solutions on technology side, a smaller scale, a reduction in cost in transportation, also micro LNG in order to be competitive against the big LNG projects. What is more important, there is a need from the growing number of players in order to develop an LNG market, because we need to hedge the risk on the new portfolio that we are building up. So we will need to have a reference price for those portfolios, and this will also help to look for a solution for the financing of the big LNG projects that will come. In order to have bankable contracts, we will need to have an LNG pricing that will assure the banks that they will make the money will come back. So all in all, I'm really happy of having the conversation with you because you have solved my question. So thank you to all of you for that.
Thank you.
What did we find out? All right, fundamentally it comes down to economics. The economics between the pricing economics between diesel pricing and gas pricing makes it a very, very tough sell at the moment. I mean, we talked about, you've got to see the 15 differential between a gas price and a crude price to make the market. But with government commitment, it is possible. And fundamentally what we say, government commitment to seeing LNG as a heavy-duty transport, CNG as a light-duty transport, and LNG as a bunkering fuel, seeing it as an interim or potentially destination solution for decarbonising transport. And take Europe, the Commission has made a commitment that it wants to decarbonise transport. It's part of the roadmap, and it is seeing some traction. So what do we learn? You need government commitment. Easy to say, but what does that look like? We had a great example in Italy where the government made the decision that it will actually give or price CNG at domestic gas prices rather than retail fuel prices, which suddenly makes the equation work for the end customer. Government willing to give up funds to the exchequer, quite often a tough sell within the current economic climate. So government commitment's critical. Go to China. The government has just decided they will build a heavy-duty LNG transport infrastructure, whatever. Yeah, so one is government commitment. The second is we learned about collaboration between the players. One of the things we talked about, if you take marine, the players have a closer relationship in marine than you see maybe in road transport. There are fewer of them. They're more used to working with each other, and they can start to talk about the solution. We had a case in Italy where in road transport some of the players have a close relationship, and they've encouraged the road transport development. So collaboration between players. Once there is enough money in the whole value chain, there is ability to divide it up so that everybody makes enough to justify their investment. And that is not necessarily easy to do when you may have some strong players. So sufficient division of profitability. And the other thing was it came from the discussion we had on the table over here about marine. Start small. So how do you get these markets created? In marine, it's the solution around ECAs. You just need 1 or 2 refueling points to create the market. Why do taxis and CNG work? Because they're home-based. They go back and forwards, back and forwards. Whereas LNG and heavy duty works, and this is a challenge for Europe. In North America, it's where you just need a handful of fueling stations along a long corridor. And the question is whether you can either use small-scale energy to create those in Europe, or there is a corridor. And Europe is a tough one on heavy-duty transport because it's a long route from Northern Europe down to Southern Europe. One of the things we learned around marine is aligning the timings. The players have got to be willing to put the infrastructure down at the same time, so you don't get the chicken and egg or the chicken omelette we had. It's a great phrase we had in one of our groups. But bottom line is that it is a solution for decarbonising transport, both marine and in road transport. It's about economics and about government support. Now, it may not be the strongest business case right now at current pricing, but if you look back 4 or 5 years, it was definitely a case for it. So it may come, and I think we concluded that it could be a good market for creating new demand for gas and LNG in Europe, so don't give up on it. Hold on, start small, and try and build from a quite a tight base.
Great. That's it. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, well, on behalf of everybody, thank you very much indeed. It sounds all very nice, facilitating, but it does mean you've got to stay awake. I know putting together the conclusions is not very easy. I'm going to take about 3 more minutes of your time for the drinks, just to give you some of the key messages I've picked up out of today, and I've put them into 3 buckets. Bucket 1 is supply, bucket 2 is demand, and bucket 3 I've called innovation. I'm not going to address some of the stuff you just heard just now, because that's just repetitive. And I think when it comes to supply, I think very clearly there are large volumes of LNG currently under construction, and Europe as a market, with estimates, somebody said up to 100 million tonnes, could be coming our way. It's going to be 150 or 20, it's still a hell of a lot of LNG, guys. And I think there were questions as to whether the regas capacity will be there, the cost of that regas capacity, and potentially the need for more infrastructure. The second supply point is there's lots of new LNG FID potential, 700 million tonnes I put in my picture, but that has still got to get to FID, and that's going to be a factor of a lot of the economics and politics, etc., etc. And thirdly, we haven't really discussed it, but we did have it raised, and we talked about it, is Iran, and there's a huge uncertainty there. So that brings me to the demand bucket, and I think that again comes to uncertainty. We had some excellent presentations on this. And the general view was an Asian demand weakness, and it's been, the interesting message was, it's been weakening since 2011, which I thought was an interesting message to come through, so it's not surprising. One thing is clear, it's uncertain. The level of demand is going to be uncertain in Asia. The second thing is, what is the role of gas in power? And of course that links back to not only coal, but also to nuclear as well, and renewables, and where is renewables going to lie in the key market areas. And there was a general view of necessity to create demand, and one of the things we heard creating demand was excellently presented in the last feedback session as to do with bunkers and with road transport, and so that was the demand area. Now the third bucket I call innovation. And this is technical and commercial, and this really comes down to the commercial side, to the way in which LNG is bought and sold, with different contractual terms, periods, and the whole of the change of the risk profile in the chain. And then one of the words of warning I gave in my opening remarks this morning is, you better look out for the risk profile changing, because if you're not ready, your competitors may be ready. Okay, so you've got to really look at that. And I think it's a stark warning to look at the way you've got to potentially restructure your business. There's a whole rationalisation and change taking place in the LNG trade. Increased flexibility is required, there's increased flexibility, and so we must be ready for that. And then moving on to technology, there's a general screen with a need for technology. In my session today, just trying to get out and discuss the key issues of lower costs are so very important. And we need technology. I think the technology people have to work with commercial people on that. So those are kind of some of the takeaways I've got from today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry we've overrun, we're by about 20 minutes, but considering what we got through, that's not bad, okay. It's my pleasure to introduce tomorrow's chair, Mr. Jonathan. No, who's chairing tomorrow? You are, exactly. You know, you're not saying anything, I know, but he's going to be your man tomorrow. Good luck. Good luck, you'll need it. And on that note, it's my pleasure on behalf of the European Gas Conference to invite you for drinks, which are going to take place over in the exhibition area. Please enjoy, please network, and look forward to seeing you bright and early tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.